All right. So today we're going to be looking at something that's
Yeah.
absolutely crucial for anyone who's starting a business in Canada, and that is
Oh,
picking the right structure.
huge.
And for this deep dive, we've got a stack of articles here from the Owner blog all about legal and financial ins and outs.
Great resource.
It is a great
Yeah.
resource. And really, I think our mission today is to equip you with the knowledge to make those smart decisions,
Absolutely.
weighing the pros and cons of each option. And so no more info overload, just clear,
Actionable insight.
yeah, actionable insights.
Love that.
So, one of the things that really stuck out to me from these owner articles is how much they stress figuring out your structure before you even launch.
Yeah, it's almost like, you're choosing the right blueprint before you even start building.
Yeah, makes total sense. A solid foundation is everything.
Right.
So the sources lay out four main business structures in Canada:
Okay.
sole proprietorship, partnership corporation,
Yes.
and cooperative.
Right.
Plus, they touch on nonprofits a little bit as well.
Makes sense.
So let's start with sole proprietorship.
Okay.
The blog makes it sound really appealing, especially if you're a solopreneur who wants to get moving quickly.
Yeah.
Easy registration, minimal startup costs. You can write off business expenses on your personal taxes.
Like, it's definitely the simplest route,
Yeah.
but there's a big caveat.
Oh.
Unlimited liability.
Oh, right.
So you're personally responsible for any debts or legal issues the business might run into.
And this is where that statistic, about 70% of small businesses failing in the first 5 years, gets really real, right?
Yeah, suddenly it's not just about ease of setup anymore.
Right.
It's that potential personal financial hit is something to think about before opting for a sole proprietorship.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on to partnerships now. I love the idea of sharing the journey with someone, pooling resources,
Yeah.
skills, all that.
The synergy.
Yeah, exactly. And the sources mention three types: general, limited, and joint ventures.
Right. But, and this is a big beat, that shared responsibility can be a double-edged sword. You're linked to your partner's decisions, even if you don't agree with them.
Oh, so trust and a rock-solid partnership agreement are non-negotiable.
It's like a business marriage
Yeah,
with all the potential ups and downs.
it really is.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to corporations.
All right.
Now, limited liability, that sounds intriguing.
Definitely a big one.
Yeah, your personal assets are shielded from business debts.
Yeah, that's a huge weight off your shoulders.
Huge.
For sure. And plus, incorporating can make it easier to secure funding, attract investors, and even project a more professional image.
So it's like leveling up in the business world, but I imagine there are trade-offs.
Oh, for sure.
Right.
Corporations, they come with more complex setup and administration.
I bet.
You're looking at 2 tax returns,
Oh.
one for you personally and one for the business, and you might miss out on some personal tax credits.
So it's not just about choosing to incorporate, but also understanding, those tax implications.
Right.
Like how taking a salary versus dividends can impact your personal finances.
Exactly. It's a whole other layer of financial strategy.
Yeah.
Requires careful planning.
Okay, now on to the cooperative model.
This is a good one.
Yeah, this one's particularly interesting to me because it offers this unique socially conscious approach.
Absolutely. Cooperatives are all about democratic ownership and decision-making.
Interesting.
Everyone has an equal say, regardless of their investment, which can really foster a strong sense of shared purpose.
Yeah, I can see that being really appealing to entrepreneurs who are, you know, prioritizing collaboration and community involvement.
For sure.
But what are the potential downsides to this model?
Well, for founders, the potential for individual profit might be lower,
Okay.
and securing that traditional financing can be a bit tricky.
Why is that?
Investors, they might be wary of a structure where those returns are distributed among the members.
So cooperatives might be better suited for businesses that are driven by a social mission or, community impact.
Yeah, where financial gain isn't that primary focus.
Exactly. Okay, and then there's the nonprofit structure.
Right.
This one's all about giving back to the community, right?
Yeah, that's the core of it. Yeah.
Yeah. And the article highlighted, the ability to apply for grants and receive donations, which can be a lifeline for those organizations.
For sure. But
Yeah.
there's no profit for members or founders.
Right.
And the paperwork
Oh, right.
can be quite extensive.
I bet.
Yeah. And securing investments is also difficult, as the goal is not really financial return.
Makes sense.
Yeah. It's more about finding individuals or organizations that are really passionate about the cause and want to contribute to the success.
Okay, so we've got, I think, a pretty good overview here of the main business structures in Canada.
Yeah, we've touched on all the main ones.
But before we move on to the legal and financial nitty-gritty, I think it's worth highlighting a key point from the How to Choose article.
Okay.
It really emphasizes that there's no single right answer. The best structure truly depends on your individual goals, your risk appetite, and the nature of your business.
Yeah, it's like finding the right pair of shoes. You know,
Yeah,
what fits comfortably for one person might pinch another.
totally.
So it's about understanding your own needs and priorities and then choosing that structure that supports them best.
Okay, so we've covered the main players now. Let's dig into the legal and financial considerations that come with each structure.
All right, let's do it.
And the top legal requirements article is a goldmine.
Yep, tons of good stuff in there.
Tons of good stuff in there.
Yeah.
One thing that stood out to me is the importance of choosing and registering your business name
Oh, yeah, huge.
correctly.
It has to be unique, reflect your brand, and follow those legal requirements. You know, distinctive element, descriptive element, and legal ending.
Right. So no copying famous brands
Exactly.
or using misleading names. It's about building your own identity and making sure it's protected legally.
Precisely. And that brings us to trademarks, which the article briefly touches on, warrants further exploration.
Yes, we should definitely add trademarks to our list of things to research.
For sure, because protecting your brand is critical,
Mm.
especially as your business grows.
Absolutely. So we've got the name down, but what else do we need on that legal front?
Well, you'll need a federal tax number, also known as a business number.
Okay.
And depending on your business, you might need to register for GST/HST.
And then I imagine there are specific permits and licenses depending on the industry and location?
Exactly. The article mentions this BizPol tool,
Oh, yeah.
which sounds like a lifesaver for navigating those requirements.
Definitely a resource worth checking out. And let's not forget business insurance, even if it's not always legally required.
It's like wearing a safety helmet.
Right.
You might not always need it, but when you do, you'll be grateful you have it.
Absolutely. It can protect you from those unexpected costs and legal headaches.
Exactly.
So we've covered those legal essentials now onto the financial side of things and the what are overhead costs article seems like a good place to start.
Yeah, that's a must-read for any entrepreneur.
Really?
Understanding those overhead costs, both fixed and variable,
Yeah.
is crucial for making informed decisions about pricing, staffing, and just your overall financial strategy.
Because ultimately those costs impact your profit margin and ability to grow, right?
100%. If you don't understand your overhead, you're essentially driving blindfolded.
Ah, that's a scary thought.
Yeah. So let's dive into the nitty-gritty of overhead costs in part 2 of our deep dive.
I'm ready.
We'll break down those fixed and variable expenses and explore how they really impact your bottom line.
Stay tuned. Okay, so we're back and we're diving headfirst into overhead costs.
Yeah, they might not be the most exciting thing to talk about.
Yeah.
But they're important.
Yeah, understanding them like inside and out.
Absolutely.
That's everything.
Yeah, you're pressing your growth strategy.
Really the whole 9 yards.
The whole 9 yards.
So the what are overhead costs
Yeah.
article, it does a great job of breaking it down into two categories,
Right.
fixed expenses and variable expenses.
Yep. And I think it's really helpful to think about real-world examples.
Oh, for sure. Can you give us some?
Yeah, absolutely. So fixed expenses, these are the costs that stay the same no matter how much business you're doing.
Okay.
So think like rent for your office or your storefront salaries for your employees, insurance premiums, those bills that just show up every month,
Right.
like clockwork, regardless of whether you're selling a ton or...
Yeah. So even if sales are slow, you've still got to cover those costs.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense.
Uh,
What about the variable side of things?
So variable expenses, those fluctuate
Okay.
depending on how much you're producing or selling.
Okay.
So let's say you run an online store, right? Your shipping costs are going to go up when you have more orders.
Yeah.
Or if you manufacture something, your raw material costs will increase as you make more units.
So the more business you do, the higher these variable expenses.
Exactly.
Okay, got it. But how do we actually figure out our overhead rate?
So the article mentions a formula. It's pretty simple. You divide your total monthly overhead costs by your monthly sales,
Okay.
and then multiply it by 100 to get a percentage.
Okay, so let's say my overhead costs for the month are $3,000 and my sales are $10,000. My overhead rate would be 30%.
Exactly. You got it.
Okay, cool.
And generally speaking, a good overhead rate is below 35%.
Okay.
But this vary widely across industries.
Right.
So it's always good to do a little research, see what the typical rates are for your specific sector.
Okay, so that I can kind of see where I stack up.
Exactly. Yeah, benchmark your performance.
Got it. Okay, so can we talk about allocation rate for a second?
Sure.
I'm still a little fuzzy on what it means.
So allocation rate, it's all about figuring out how much of your overhead to assign to each product or service that you offer.
Okay.
So imagine you're a baker, right?
Okay.
And you make cakes and cookies.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't want to price a simple cookie the same as like a complex multi-tiered cake.
Right.
The allocation rate helps you account for those different overhead costs.
Okay, that makes sense. So how do I actually calculate this allocation rate?
So one common method is to divide your total overhead costs by the total number of direct labor hours
Okay.
involved in production. So that gives you an overhead allocation rate per labor hour.
Okay, so let's say my bakery's total overhead is $5,000 per month, and my bakers work a combined 200 hours per month. That would make my allocation rate $25 per labor hour.
Yes, exactly.
Awesome.
And then you can factor that into your pricing.
Okay.
So if a cake takes 5 hours to make a praise, you'd add $125 to the cost to cover the overhead.
Got it. So it's like distributing those overhead costs fairly
Right.
across all the products, making sure we're pricing things accurately and actually making a profit.
Exactly. Understanding that allocation rate can make a big difference in your profitability,
Okay.
especially if you have a range of products or services.
Okay, so overhead costs. We
And
did it.
We tackled it.
I want to circle back to corporations for a minute.
Okay.
Last time we talked about how you pay yourself and how that can have significant tax implications.
Right. And it's worth diving a bit deeper into that
Okay.
because the article explains you can choose between taking a salary dividends or a combination of both, depending on what works best for you, to kind of minimize your tax burden.
It sounds complicated.
It can be.
Yeah.
And it's highly specific to your situation.
Okay.
So this is where having a good accountant is really helpful.
Yeah.
They can help you strategize
Yeah.
and make the most of the tax benefits that are available to corporations.
So incorporating, it's not just about the legal structure, but also about creating a smart financial plan
100%.
that aligns with your goals.
It's like playing chess.
Ooh.
You got to think a few moves ahead,
Okay, I like that.
to optimize your outcomes.
Now, speaking of legal aspects,
Yeah.
I remember the top legal requirements article briefly mentioned trademarks.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it deserves a little bit more attention.
I couldn't agree more. Trademarks are essential
Okay.
for protecting your brand, your unique identity.
So if I come up with this brilliant name for my new line of artisanal pickles,
Okay.
a trademark prevents someone else from just like swooping in and using it.
Exactly. It's like putting a fence around your brand,
Okay.
safeguarding it from imitators and infringement.
And what happens if someone does infringe on my trademark?
Ooh, you don't want to go there?
No.
It can lead to legal battles, financial penalties, damage to your brand's reputation.
That sounds like a headache.
Big time.
I want to avoid.
Avoid at all costs.
Yeah. So how do we go about getting this trademark protection?
So the article suggests starting with a search
Okay.
on the Canadian Intellectual Property Office's database.
Okay.
It's free,
Oh, awesome.
and it'll help you see if anyone else is already using a similar mark.
And if the coast is clear, then I can go ahead and register my trademark.
Exactly.
How complicated is that?
It can be a bit daunting,
Yeah.
but thankfully resources like Owner can make it much smoother.
Okay. Good to know.
Yeah, they even offer unlimited pre-searches as part of their incorporation package.
Oh, that's good to know. So before we move on, just to recap, trademarks, essential,
Yes.
protecting your brand.
Absolutely.
Thorough research and proper registration key.
Can't emphasize that enough.
Okay, we've tackled overhead costs, delved into the tax intricacies of corporations, and even explored this world of trademarks.
We've covered a lot of ground.
We have, but there's still more to uncover.
There's always more.
There's always more. So in part 3 of our deep dive, we're going to shift gears and look at the human side of choosing a business structure.
Okay. Lots.
We'll look at how each structure impacts not just the legal and financial aspects, but also the personal challenges
Right.
and rewards.
Yeah, the human element.
The human element of being an entrepreneur, so stay tuned. Welcome back to our deep dive. It's the final stretch.
Yeah, we've been through a lot, haven't we?
We explored the legal maze. We crunched some numbers with overhead costs.
Yep.
And even stepped into the world of trademarks.
Trademarks are fun.
They are fun.
Yeah.
But now I kind of want to talk about something just as important,
Cool.
the human side of entrepreneurship.
Right.
You know, it's easy to get caught up in the logistics.
Yeah, for sure.
But choosing a business structure is about more than just paperwork and regulations.
Absolutely.
It's about finding a framework that aligns with you personally,
Yeah.
with your values, your
Right.
work style, your vision.
It's about finding the right fit.
Yeah, so let's revisit each structure and think about not just the legal and financial stuff,
Yeah.
but also, you know, the day-to-day realities of running a business under each model.
All right. That was good.
Okay, let's start with sole proprietorships.
Yeah.
You know, they offer a lot of freedom, a lot of flexibility,
Hmm.
but they also come with a unique set of challenges.
Right.
The How to Choose article highlighted the simplicity and ease of setup, but it also warned against burnout.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah, solopreneurs often wear so many hats.
All the hats.
Juggling, marketing, sales, customer service, accounting. It can be exhilarating, but it can also be really isolating.
It's true.
And then there's that pressure of unlimited liability.
Right.
Knowing that your personal assets are on the line
It can be a lot.
can be a lot.
See,
So it's a good fit, for someone who thrives on that independence
Mhm.
and who's comfortable making all the decisions,
Right.
but it's not a path to be taken lightly.
Definitely not.
Okay, let's talk about partnerships.
All right.
Now, they offer the benefit of shared responsibility,
Yeah.
having a built-in support system.
Yeah.
But they also require a different set of skills.
Mhm.
The top legal requirements article really emphasized that strong partnership agreement.
So important.
So important. And it's not just about finding someone with complementary skills.
Right.
It's about finding someone you trust implicitly,
Yeah.
who shares your values and your long-term vision.
Like any relationship, communication is key.
It really is.
You have to be able to openly discuss ideas, concerns, goals. Disagreements will happen, but it's how you handle them that determines the success of the partnership.
And, of course, there's still that shared liability.
Right? Always there.
You're both responsible for each other's actions.
Yeah, that can be a bit nerve-wracking,
It can.
for sure.
So partnerships require a high level of trust, a willingness to compromise,
For sure.
but when they work well,
Yeah.
they can be so rewarding.
Super rewarding.
Okay, let's move on to corporations.
Okay?
They offer that coveted limited liability,
Yeah, the big one.
but they also tend to be more complex.
More structured for sure.
Corporations often involve multiple stakeholders, shareholders, a board of directors.
Right. Decision-making can be a little bit more complicated.
Yeah, so you might not have the same level of autonomy as you would with a sole proprietorship or partnership.
That's true. But corporations also offer the potential for greater scalability and growth.
Oh, okay.
You can attract investors, access more resources, build a team of experts.
It's like building a machine
It is.
with all these moving parts, and
Yeah.
they all contribute to the overall success.
And while that corporate world might seem impersonal, a lot of corporations, they foster a really strong sense of teamwork and shared purpose.
Interesting.
Yeah. Employees often feel connected to the company's mission
Okay.
and take pride in their contributions.
So it's not just about the legal and financial benefit.
Right. It's about creating a culture
Yeah.
that attracts and retains talent.
Okay, now let's go back to cooperatives.
Right.
They're all about shared ownership and democratic decision-making.
That's at the heart of it.
I can see that would attract, entrepreneurs who value collaboration, community involvement, social responsibility.
Absolutely. It
Gotta be-
empowers everyone to have a voice,
Yeah.
a stake in the business.
But the How to Choose article mentioned that profitability might be lower.
Yeah, for founders especially.
And securing traditional financing can be a challenge.
It can because profits are often reinvested back into the business
Right.
or distributed amongst the members.
Right.
So investors might be a little hesitant.
Makes sense.
Yeah, to invest in a structure where their returns are limited or shared.
So cooperatives, they might be better suited for those businesses driven by a social mission,
Right.
community impact.
Where that financial gain isn't the main focus.
Exactly. And finally, nonprofits.
Yeah, right.
These organizations operate on a whole other level,
Yeah, they do.
driven by that desire to serve a greater good.
And make a difference.
Yeah, and the article highlighted the ability to apply for grants and solicit donations.
Which can be huge.
Which can be huge for those organizations.
Yeah.
But attracting and retaining top talent can be tricky.
Yeah, especially when salaries are often lower than in the for-profit world.
Right. And then there's the administrative burden.
All the paperwork.
With all the reporting requirements and oversight,
It can be a lot.
it can be a lot. But for those who are driven by a cause, a passion for social change, a desire to make a difference, those rewards, they can be immeasurable.
They really can. It's about aligning your work with your values and contributing to something bigger than yourself.
Well said. So we've come full circle in our exploration of business structures in Canada.
We made it.
We did it. We looked at the legal, the financial, the human side,
All the angles.
highlighting the unique advantages and challenges of each option.
And hopefully we've given you the info and inspiration you need
Yeah.
to choose the right structure for you.
Remember, there's no one-size-fits-all answer. The best structure for you will depend on your individual circumstances, your risk tolerance, and your long-term goals.
And don't be afraid to reach out for expert advice.
Yeah.
Talk to lawyers,
Mhm.
accountants, experienced entrepreneurs. They can provide really valuable insights and guidance.
Couldn't agree more. We hope this deep dive has been helpful, and we wish you all the best on your entrepreneurial journey.